Hey y'all, welcome back to Key is King. I'm Key, and today we are going to be talking about Season 5, Episode 2 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I am running on God knows how many hours of sleep, which means virtually none, so this is going to be real fun today. Real fun. But we open the episode with Lisa and Bronwyn, and they are in the car just driving around recapping the series of last night's party, which, for those of you that remember, was a shit show in many different ways. But we're getting into it. Bronwyn is seemingly just really agreeing with Lisa about everything. She's like really kind of just endorsing Lisa a little bit. And to be expected, Lisa brought Bronwyn on the show, right? Okay. So they kind of start talking about Angie, and as they're talking about Angie, the Bravo gods have Angie call Lisa. And what does Lisa do? Lisa immediately goes into Bronwyn, you are my side chick mode. For those of you that are familiar with the side chick dynamics, usually... okay, that's... Sorry. Freudian, okay. LOL. So Lisa treats Bronwyn like her side chick. She's like, oh, Angie's calling, be quiet, don't say anything. Mind you, Bronwyn has a dog in her lap, and she's like, okay, we won't talk. Side chick of the year right there. So Angie called, and she's like, oh, yeah, Lisa, we should get together, like, let's talk. Lisa's like, yeah, I'm running some errands, like, blah, 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 like, I'll let you know when I'm free later. Because, you know, you always have to play elusive when you're mad, I guess, if you're Lisa Barlow. So, that happens, and they're whatever. And Bronwyn's like, oh, were you expecting that? And Lisa was like, not at all. Sure. They move on from that. It's little transition scenes. Whitney with her family, don't care. They show Angie and her husband, and he's talking to her about the whole Lisa fight, and Angie's like, Lisa stood up like she was going to lunge at me at the table, and Angie's husband essentially was just like, you don't have to deal with that, you don't have to stand for that. He was hyping his woman up, and I live for a supportive, secretly gay husband. Like, you better support your queen, and you better run your hair salons, and you better wear tight clothes. But it really was nice, because I love Angie, even if her husband's gay, even if she knows it. That's their business. Okay? They move on to a quick scene of Mary and her son. And I know a lot of people hate Mary. A lot of people think that her son has issues. And I honestly think he might have some like emotional issues. Maybe if he does have mental issues. So a lot of people do. But I just you can really tell that Mary loves her son. And I just have a soft spot for that type of relationship. I think people can be as Looney Tunes as they want to be, but if they love their children wholeheartedly and support their children wholeheartedly, that's always going to give them a pass, in some context, in some degree. But you can just really tell that Mary loves her son. I mean, as a preacher, she's not caring that he's at home, no job, but she also said that he was like sheltered and it's kind of her fault, so she doesn't mind that he's home and that he's kind of just like going through this process. I just did find it funny that as they're talking, he's double fisting donuts. She's like, oh, you got the munchies. So say what you want, Mary might be a lot of things, but at least she's a cool enough preacher mom to like know that her son is high as fuck and eating donuts. Like, something about that just made me smile. So that was that. We transition back to Lisa and Bronwyn in the car. They're driving around, and long and behold, they're going to pick up Heather, my favorite cast member. But Lisa is pretty smart with her endorsement thing, because what are they doing? They're picking up Heather to go on a Wendy's run. And for those of you that know Lisa, she's like addicted to fast food, addicted to Diet Coke. Mary notoriously tells her that she needs nutrients and to feed her kid vegetables. Because they can't just eat Diet Coke and Wendy's and McDonald's all the time, and Taco Bell, because Lisa loves Taco Bell. But long story short, Lisa got herself a Wendy's endorsement, and she's literally making it a part of her scene. So she's being kind of shady towards Bronwyn, and I'm starting to get the sense that there's going to be a Bronwyn-Lisa beef, which, if you know Housewives, you know historically, they bring people onto the show just to immediately beef with them. It's like, if you want to ruin and fuck up every relationship or friendship in your life, come on Bravo, come on TV, guarantee you won't be friends unless you're Robin and Giselle. And if you know who Robin and Giselle are, first of all, I'm sorry, and if you don't even look them up, not worth it. But Lisa's being kind of shady towards Bronwyn. Their kids know each other from school, and Lisa's like, I don't know if I like Bronwyn more or her daughter more. And I'm sorry, but if my friend is legitimately saying she doesn't know if she likes me or my child more, we have a problem because you're supposed to like me. Like, fuck that fucking kids. You're supposed to be my bitch. So, I don't know. That, and just knowing how Lisa operates, it was very, like, and I'm really wrong in these, like, reality TV situations, so keep an eye on it. But they pick up Heather, unfortunately, and they're talking about the night. And Heather, to make a long story short, because I don't like spending a lot of time talking about Heather at all, Heather is very upset that Bronwyn has strong opinions about something that she was there for. And okay, I can understand that, because Heather's saying, like, we have experience with people coming in hot to this group and it turns out bad. But at the end of the day, if I'm there to witness something, I'm going to have an opinion on it. If I'm confident and sure enough to say my opinion in a moment, sucks for you if you can't. Like, so to me, it just reads, like, I know some people might agree with Heather, like, oh, she's new and she's coming in and she's saying her opinion, but that's what she has a mouth for. That's what she has a brain for. And the fact that she's, like, not afraid to do so doesn't make her, like, fucked up. It makes her an observer of a situation. So that's my 2 cents, but Heather seems to think this is really bad. And Bronwyn was talking about how she was, like, laughing at different parts of it, and, like, Whitney was, like, kind of funny with the way she's doing her baby talk and fuck yous. Like, if that's her opinion, that's her opinion. So that was that. But okay. Lisa also explains her feelings about Angie and Whitney. She just seems to think that Angie's kind of betraying her and that there's not really trust amongst the two of them at this point. We then move on to the mistress of Stiff herself, Meredith Marks, and honestly this whole scene was an eye roll for me, but there's one takeaway that I will get into. But Meredith and her husband go to a cooking class as a date night, whatever, great, cute, good for you. But Meredith reveals that she's going to have a bat mitzvah, I don't know if I say that right, bat mitzvah, but the coming of age celebration that most Jewish children have when they are 13. Meredith is probably 50 plus at this point, and so she decides that she wants to be religiously awoken for a storyline, and that's really not fun. Like, I think I said it before, and if I didn't say it before, it really is time for Meredith to hang it up flat screen. Like, she's becoming Jewish, like, ceremoniously Jewish, like, after all this time, to connect to it and, like, whatever. But the scene was an eye roll. The thing to take away from this scene, though, was that her husband, Seth, who is fine, especially for a nice vanilla man, he is fine, in my opinion. These are my opinions. But Seth was actually very happy and very touched by this, because he's like, I've been asking you to, like, do this and, like, fully, like, come into Judaism for a long time, and he really loves his religion. He was like, there's not a lot of Jews left, so it was cute that it meant so much to Seth. He was crying, he was like, we can finally talk Hebrew together, so, like, that was cute. But, like, the fact that we're doing this for a storyline, next. Then we move on to what I feel like will be a major ripple effect of this season. Angie and Lisa sit down. So Lisa has dropped off her Wendy's, she has dropped off her friends and the dog, and now she's going to meet Angie at this restaurant. They come in, and Lisa's just like, okay, let's get to it. And so Angie is really genuinely trying to be a peacemaker, I feel like, in this situation. She really is trying to, she thought she was going to go over to Whitney's house and tell her that, hey, Lisa's upset, and Whitney was going to apologize. But Whitney is a messy bitch, and Whitney also knows how to get a moment at this point. She's a seasoned housewife in that way. She's the Ashley Darby of Salt Lake City. And if you know who Ashley Darby is, she's a messy bitch from Potomac. But Lisa comes in and she's like, yeah, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Angie's trying to tell her, like, you're hard to, like, kind of talk to or tell things to, and, like, I was trying to be a peacemaker. And Lisa's not really having it. Lisa's pretty unaware, or willingly unaware, of how she affects other people. In Lisa's mind, she's like, I am who I am. You either take it or leave it. I'm 40 plus years old. I've been this way. Like, in a lot of ways, I get that and I can respect that. But, like, Lisa's not willing to see how she's affecting other people. And I think what's happening here is that Angie's finally setting a boundary and sticking up for herself, where, as before, Angie took on a lot And like, I feel like this is very classic. It's like 101 in friendship, honestly, where like Angie is kind of setting a new boundary. Lisa's uncomfortable by that because Lisa is at this point in her life okay with who she is, and that's perfectly okay too. So it's one of those like unfortunate things where they both have validity, but I think at the basis of all of this, Angie is like tired of just being like the nice, quiet friend. And she's like, no, I want you to like acknowledge or just like do certain things. And Lisa's just like, I don't know if I want to or am I like really capable of that. And like I said, both stances are fair, but it is unfortunate to see because you can tell they both love each other. Lisa's very uncomfortable by it all. Angie is kind of sticking her ground, and I respect that. I really do, because Angie really is a sweetheart. And she's just trying to like have some like, I don't even know. She's just trying to get something where she feels comfortable in her dynamic, and I think that's fair. But they're not going anywhere because Lisa's like, I am who I am. I'm not a villain, and if I'm going to be a villain, let me be a villain. She's like, fuck it. Like, I am who I am. If that means I'm a bitch, I'm a bitch. Okay. And Angie's like trying to like rational and reason, but it's not going anywhere. Lisa gets very uncomfortable when things aren't going in a flowy way. So it's just so funny to me because as Lisa's leaving, she's like, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to like end this conversation. As she's getting up and walking away, she's like, I hope we can continue this conversation. Now, baby gorgeous, I love you. In this situation, I feel like you're kind of wrong, if you want to be technical, but if anybody ever walked away from me saying, I hope we can continue this conversation, I'm spazzing. Because I already am a dog with a bone in life half the time. Don't you dare walk away with my bone, because I'm going to chase you. Unless we are agreeing to disagree, but don't tell me let's continue the conversation as you walk away. And I just love Angie's response, because Angie was like, bye, Lisa. She said, how are you going to say that? Bye. Next scene is a filler scene pretty much, but it's Bronwyn and her old husband. And I'm probably always going to refer to him as her old husband because he's like almost 70 and she's almost 40, I think. So a fact is a fact. No shade, just that's her old husband. It's a great descriptor word. But they're chilling, they're talking, and this scene is just like oozing money. Like, they are wealthy, and I live for the rich shit. Like, because baby, that'll be me in about 5 to 10. Okay? Not minutes, but years. I know. My watch, it changes. It's convertible. This is in years right now. So 5 to 10 years. That's going to be me. She is married to the former CEO of like Palm. So the Palm Pilot, if any of you are like old or know what that is. I know for the young whippersnappers out there, probably not know what a Palm Pilot is. But that was like technology's like finest at a point. So she's married to the Palm Pilot man. They live in this house for like a year and a half, and they're filling it with like random shit, or their interior designer's coming over to be like, what did you fill this house with? Like I said, filler scene, they're putting in this like statue of chairs and lights. Not my style, but like to each his own. I'm not rich, so maybe I don't get it. And the takeaway scene, or the takeaway from this scene, is that at some point they're like looking for scissors to cut this sculpture out. And Bronwyn's husband is like, her old husband, excuse me, how dare I? Her old husband was like, oh, do you have scissors? And she's like, you want me to look for scissors? And he was like, oh, no, I'll go get them. And she's like, yeah, they're in the cabinet upstairs in the bathroom. So not only did she know where the scissors were and could have gotten them, but she willingly was just like, oh, you want me to go get them? No, we don't do that. And I was like, okay. Okay. I mean, I personally, like, don't mind going to use my legs to get things that I need myself, but, like, I can respect the cuntiness of, like, oh, you want me to do it? I don't do that. I don't look for things. I don't get things. That's your job. Mind you, okay, I said there was not a lot in the scene, just a couple noteworthy things. This man apparently, like, travels to New York 2 to 3 times a week, so she is rich as hell, found an old-ass husband who doesn't live with her half the time, and she's just, like, spending his money and doing whatever she wants to. Willingly, because apparently he just likes her to be happy. And she can do whatever she wants, really, is what she said. And as he went upstairs to get the scissors because she could not be bothered, she said, okay, when he's not here, let's talk about my closet because we don't have certain conversations in front of him. Baby. Call it what you want. I call that goals. Rich shit. Rich shit. And then we have bad weather together again. Heather and Whitney are getting together because Heather really feels bad that she ganged up on Whitney. Apparently she was up during the night, but Heather's also a fake bitch, so. But they go to a crystal shop because Heather's talking Whitney's language. Whitney's very into her healing journey. And Heather meets Whitney and she's like, yeah, you have a $500 limit for crystals. Now I know I don't like Heather. And I still don't like Heather. But if the bitch gave me a $500 crystal limit, I'd like her for the day. Or for the however long we were there. I would fake it till I made it. Because having a rich friend seems nice. I'm trying to be either like that or just know somebody like that. Like, I like being generous, but I also like getting gifts. But I was like, okay, I don't like you, bitch, but $500 is, I wrote that down. I wrote it down in my notebook. It's like, wow, okay. But they're talking about it. They're talking about the gang up. Whitney's like, yeah, you guys really ganged up on me. And Heather's like, yeah, I thought maybe you did feel that way. Why would Whitney not feel ganged up on when you guys ganged up on her? But that's why we're here. I get it. You admitted it. Great. But Heather did make an interesting point, and once again, I'll always give credit where credit's due. She was like, is Whitney just kind of like blindly healing? Meaning that she's just healing, she's on her healing journey, she doesn't give a about what anybody else is kind of affected by. She was like, Whitney just kind of wants to go through all this shit, make her friends kind of absorb all of her healing journey and like go through it with her without any regard to like how it affects them and like how maybe they're burnt out and they don't want to snap back from all of that exposure to the healing and the kind of the stuff that Whitney subjects her to. And honestly, I was like, oh my god, Heather, are you like it just made me conscious and like realize and open my mind of like, okay, healing journeys do have ripple effects, and sometimes the journey you're on does affect the people you're around. And so it just made me really stop and think like, wow. And like I said, I don't even like Heather, but when you got a point, you got a point. So they're talking about that, and Heather ultimately apologizes to Whitney, and I think that was good for them. Like I said, it's good that you can, when somebody can admit their wrongs and just own it. That's a big piece of moving on and healing. But they're talking about that. They move on. Whitney is talking about she's doing a trip to Milwaukee because Trixie Mattel, Drag Race has infiltrated Housewives Land officially, because this is Trixie's second season with Salt Lake City involvement. And so I just love that. Love Trixie, love drag, love the gays. And so Whitney's planning a trip, and she's like, oh yeah, like Bronwyn's gonna come. She's kind of talking about who she's gonna invite, not invite, because of the tensions, obviously. And Heather's like, oh, Bronwyn, you're gonna invite Bronwyn, who was like talking shit about you? Like, that's very interesting. And they clearly are setting up Bronwyn to be a messy bitch, because so far in this episode, every time they cut to Bronwyn talking to somebody, she is saying something different. She's kind of changing her tone. She's like saying very similar things, but she's changing the context depending who she's talking to. She's kind of changing the perspective a little bit depending on who she's talking to, and we are clocking that tea. And the show is actually setting her up that way too. So I'm starting to see where things are going with Miss Bronwyn. And but Heather's like, oh, you want to bring Bronwyn on this trip, and she's been talking like shit about you. How interesting. And it's feeding Heather's confirmation bias about what's happening with Bronwyn. And we shall see. Once again, Meredith is back with a filler scene. This time, she's with her children and not her husband. And I'm not sure what's going on, but Meredith has been feeding both her and her children Xanax since they were in the womb. Convinced. These are the most like sedated people I've ever seen, I think, literally ever. They all talking like this. And she has a sissy bitch son, as Jen Shaw famously called him, allegedly, Brooks. And I usually cannot stand the sight, the sound, the what I think he smells like. I just literally cannot stand Brooks usually. And he was the least annoying person in the scene. Tell me why. Tell me how. And then tell me why again. Why was Brooks the least annoying person? Meredith is talking like she just snorted 18 Xanax. Her daughter is also talking like that, but saying weird, like almost pop culture phrases like, you better work, girl. Just like, I wanted to pull my eyeballs out of my face and put them in my ear so I couldn't hear it. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. I was like, what is the Xanax Twilight Zone that I'm watching? But moving on. And then we just go from bad to worse. We move on from Meredith and the Xanax crew to Heather and Britt playing pickleball, which is apparently the world's new favorite leading sport, at least for housewives. And so Heather is just obsessed with being a Mormon. Like, Heather left the Mormon community, she was excommunicated herself, but is so obsessed and clearly a former cult member, and I do not like anything about it. Like, Heather always wants to be talking about Mormon, and being a bad Mormon, and Mormon this. Like, if you want to be a Mormon so bad, sis, go back. Nobody's telling you that you can, but you want to talk about how you love black men, and having sex, and all this other stuff, great. Pick a page and stick to it, girl. But her and her crazy friend of Britt are playing pickleball, and she's obsessed with Britt because Britt is a bad Mormon, and Brittany's, a part of me feels like she could be cool, but she's weird and cringy and really fucking annoying. And she's talking about how she's like been with this man who calls her best friend. He's like, they're best friends and that's her boyfriend, according to her. It's one of those. And they broke up 16 times in 8 months. And he's all this, and she's just weird and going through all this shit, and like, her kids don't fuck with her because she literally said, I sacrificed my children for a man, because apparently in Mormon culture, being married is more important than children, and like, having children. Like, you can get into heaven with, like, you need a husband and a spouse to get into heaven, but you can get into heaven without children. So these women literally put their love, their thing, everything before their men, before everything. And so Britt is just kind of explaining that, and Heather's explaining how in her former marriage that she was miserable in, her husband came before her kids all the time without question. So, 2 Mormons bonding over being bad parents. Maybe if I liked them more, it would matter. It doesn't, though. Not to me. Sorry. Then we move on to Bronwyn in her fashion robe going to Angie's salon. So when Bronwyn arrives to Angie's salon, Angie is very welcoming and hospitable, but Angie was very worried about the impression she made because Bronwyn is coming in as Lisa's friend, and Angie got into a fight with Lisa. And so Angie was like, I just want you to know that like this is not like who I am. I felt awful about the impression I possibly made. And Bronwyn was like, no, I totally get it. And she's kind of blowing smoke up Angie's ass, and kind of seemingly like not really being Team Lisa, or not really like having the same energy she had with Lisa. And so they really are setting Bronwyn up to be messy, like as fuck. But it was a nice moment for them to bond. Once again, it's Bronwyn looking and appearing to be messy. She's really siding with Angie. She was saying that she didn't really agree with Lisa and like all this stuff about Whitney. So Bronwyn is really seemingly just stirring the pot and literally saying a different story to whoever she's in front of. One thing she's not shy about or changing on is the fact that she does not like Britt. Insane. Like, I do not blame you, because Britt's weird. So Bronwyn is talking shit about Britt. She said she can't even spell the letters YSL together. Like, not the full designer name. She said she couldn't put the letters Y, S, and L in the same sequence they need to be. That's shady as hell, and I live for it. So Bronwyn is messy, she's shady, but like, that's what I need. I need that chaotic energy, and I need somebody that's not annoying to do it. A la Whitney. I need this. This is good. This is good. And something that was very interesting, and I think the most noteworthy about this little interaction, is that they foreshadowed Bronwyn saying that she has a hard time really trusting people, and that she has a history of people kind of letting her down or like switching up on her. And so, like I said earlier, with how they were talking and including the Lisa shade, they are setting up a Bronwyn and Lisa break. I'm calling it now. You heard it here first. They are setting up something between Lisa and Bronwyn, because she's already alluding to the fact that Lisa didn't really have her back, and she like already has trust issues with women. So I'm telling you right now, something's gonna happen there. Even if they end up still being friends, they're gonna at least have a fight. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. And then we get into the main event of the episode, the final scene, which felt to be like 18 hours long in the best way possible. But Heather's hosting a bonding event, which is like a ropes course thing, but she's doing a team building, that's a better word for it, a team building event for the ladies, because she knows that Whitney is going to try to introduce this trip, and she's like, how are we going to go on a trip with everybody hating each other currently? So everybody starts to slowly trickle in and arrive, and Whitney is ready for Lisa. Like, I'm telling you, I'm convinced that Whitney's time on Ultimate Girls Trip and becoming kind of besties with Candace from Potomac has changed her brain chemistry. She like really woke it up to how to be a housewife and how to be shady. After her time on that show, Whitney's been different with the way she delivers on this show, and leave it to a black woman to save the day. That's what I'm going to say about that. But Whitney is like ready for Lisa, because Lisa is a formidable opponent in Salt Lake. A lot of people don't like to fight Lisa. A lot of people started the show scared of her. Whitney is healed. She's healed, and she's ready to go. She's ready to go. So she's ready for Lisa. You know who's not ready for somebody? Mary. And not in the sense that Mary can't handle Britt, but Mary just does not want to deal with Britt. Britt walks up and Mary immediately starts praying. Mary sees her and immediately is like, God, please, please give me strength. Please give me strength. That shit took me out. Because sometimes you just gotta pray. Sometimes you just gotta pray it through. So, Mary praying the second she laid her eyes on Britt took me out. That was so funny to me. But the tensions are just very, very present. They're awkward. It's wild. Everybody's mad at Elisa and Angie are avoiding each other. Lisa and Whitney, well, Lisa's avoiding Whitney. Whitney's not avoiding much of anything, honestly. Meredith is avoiding Whitney. All this stuff. And so they go through the event. They're bonding. They're having fun. A few people have more success than others, but if I was up in the ropes course, I don't think I'd be doing the best either. I'm a lot of body, I'm a lot of man. I need to be on the ground firmly, or at least like, I don't know, close to, I don't know. It's just, it makes me nervous, But the event goes fine, whatever. They go down to eat, they have a food truck, they're eating tacos and hot chocolate, or like coffee and cheeseburgers. Makes my stomach kind of hurt, and I can eat some weird shit. But they go sit down at the table, and Britt decides she wants to make a toast and an announcement. And her big announcement with her weird ass is that her and her boyfriend are Instagram official. And the reason she thinks they're Instagram official is because he posted a picture of them at Costco saying, "Me and my best friend at Costco." Is official in the room with us. Is Sanity in the room with us. I wish this bitch was not in the room with us. She's weird. She's like, I just want to announce that like we're official and I'm happy and this is great news and I just wanted to share it with my friends. Everybody's like, somebody literally pulls up the post immediately and is like, is this what you're talking about? Because this is not what you think it is. They're all just like, no, I have concerns. Whitney's like, we went to dinner and I've never met somebody like that, and I don't think so. Lisa's like, I think you're being played. Mary asked the question that we all want to know, which is, why do we care? Why are you telling us this? What are we supposed to do? And so Brittany's like, Mary, that's rude. And so Mary proceeds to let this woman have it. And this woman's trying to fight with Mary, and Mary is not only fighting with her, Mary's fighting for her life with her outfit. I'm not sure what was going on with Mary, but Mary was low-key allergic to her outfit and to the air, because she was fighting, and she was getting her good too. But she was like struggling with her fashions the whole time, in my opinion. Maybe I was just a little too under the influence when I was watching this, but I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in if I find it, okay? But yeah, so Britt is getting demolished by Mary because Mary's like, why do we care? I'm not rude. You're sharing this weird random story that's not even real, and we didn't ask you about your boyfriend. And all this other stuff. So that was good. That was what I needed because Britt, you're a weirdo, and I'm glad somebody said it. And they all kind of jumped on her anyway. And so that was very nice. Oh, and how could I forget? At some point during this argument, Mary goes, your kids don't even talk to you, because Britt in all this was saying that her daughters don't talk to her. And I guess that's another reason why she wanted to share this good news. I don't fucking know. But Mary's like, your kids don't even talk to you, so what are you talking about? And so that does lead to Mary talking about her childhood a little more, and this is what I'm talking about. I don't get how people hate Mary. I think people that hate Mary are racist, closed-minded, or literally just not funny. Like, because Mary shows or gives us more of an insight to her upbringing in her life. And she said her mom had 5 kids. Her mom always chose men over them. They needed stuff, and like she felt like she wasn't there, and they had to like fend for themselves. So just being able to hear some of that and some of Mary's trauma also explains why Mary is the kooky, crazy, alleged cult leader herself. Like, it makes sense. It makes Mary human, and for me, it makes me be like, damn. It adds layers to Mary. It adds depth to Mary, and I love her for that, and I love her for sharing that. Also, not for nothing, I watched, maybe it was House of Aaron on YouTube. Check him out if that is the name indeed. I think it is. But he did an interview with Mary's mom that was like maybe a year or 2 ago. And that was really good, and that was actually very insightful because Mary's mom, according to her, Mary stole her step-grandfather and like the church legacy and the cult. Apparently she was supposed to be married and have all the money and all this stuff. So very interesting to hear the different takes because I don't think they speak to each other currently. But yeah, that was that. Mary got Brit good, and I want her to get her again and again and again. Every time she's weird, get her. Get her for me. Get her for me. As Mary is fucking up Brit in this argument, Bronwyn's like tagging Mary because she's like, yep, she's co-signing. And Bronwyn's like, look, Brit, you're messy as hell. Your words are fucked up, you don't know what you're saying, you're all over the place. Every time I met you, it was chaotic, it was messy, it was just weird. So like, that's the impression you're giving. She was like, get it together, tighten it up. And so as Bronwyn is kind of giving it to Brit too, Heather's like, oh, you want to talk? Because Heather apparently feels so bad that Brittany is getting dragged and she's getting accosted by these women. She feels like she's watching her getting kicked in her teeth. Bitch, you brought her here. You're the reason she's here. And you're the reason that she's getting attacked, and you're not saying shit. You want to say all the shit in the confessional. So Heather's big I got your back moment is that she is like, she's like, oh, Bronwyn, you want to talk shit? You've been a messy bitch. You've been saying everything to everybody, and you're switching your story. You have all these opinions, so if she needs to get her words together, so do you. And at first it's like, okay, Heather, you might have ate that one little thing. But they cut back to scenes of Bronwyn is hanging out with Whitney, apparently a day before. Did my voice just crack? Am I still youthful? So she is with Whitney the day before, and she's telling Whitney essentially what she said. She was like, oh, did you practice your little line in the mirror? That was like, but she tells Whitney it was so iconic, and that's what I'm talking about. To everybody else, she didn't say that Whitney was like iconic, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But to Whitney, she's like, oh, it was so iconic, I was laughing so hard. So she's saying it, but she's switching up her vantage point a little bit, depending on who she's talking to. But she's covering her ass. That's what we call CYA, cover your ass. So Bronwyn knows a thing or two. She's strategic, she's intellectual, and that's why I like her. She knows she's a messy bitch. She knows she has opinions, but she's doing her best to kind of cover it up because Heather, not for nothing, is going off, and this is why I don't fucking like this woman. She's putting so much sauce on this, like, you said deplorable, horrible things about Whitney, and now you're defending, and da-da-da-da. And Whitney's like, first of all, she told me about this, and 2, your reaction is way bigger than what she said, actually. Heather just wanted so badly for Bronwyn to be like this like messy bitch that everybody hated, and she was just like so obnoxiously like crude and rude. And that wasn't the case, and Heather looked really dumb to me, but she swore she was cooking with oil. Baby, you were barely cooking with butter. Barely cooking with, you were cooking with a dry pan. A sticky dry pan. That's what you were cooking with, Heather. So she tries to like throw Bronwyn under the bus. It didn't really fucking work for her. But this leads to what I was talking about. Bronwyn is like, well, where's Lisa at? Like, I was expecting Lisa to have my back. I've known Lisa for like 7 to 8 years. Like, I was expecting her to defend me somewhat. But Lisa told her, was like, well, you were kind of being snarky, Bronwyn. And she's like, yeah, I was, but like, where's the support for me? So like I said, mark my words, cracks are showing in that friendship. I'm having a physical reaction to this. Mark my words. There are cracks in this friendship, and they are showing and they're developing. But as Heather was kind of throwing Whitney under the bus, it's very clear that Bronwyn had something to say about Whitney, and then Whitney's new friend of Malulu, because Heather keeps saying, you're talking about Maylee and Whitney, and Maylee gets, what? For real? Oh man. So, but they really cut her out, so that lets me know that she's not going to really have a say in this show like Britt may, which is unfortunate, because Britt has a confessional. I don't know if Maylee, we'll call her Melee. I don't know if Melee has a confessional or not, but they seem to kind of edit that part out and more focus on Whitney. But you think it would end there, but we keep going. So who gets into it again? Lisa and Whitney. They start arguing again because they're having the whole fact versus feeling argument, and Lisa is still mad about the podcast and Whitney is still whatever, but Whitney does apologize to Lisa. And Lisa accepts it and acknowledges the fact that, hey, you apologize, that's half of what I wanted. But Lisa's like, she apologized, but shit ain't fixed. And to be expected, but the ego stroke of an apology does something for Lisa. You know who doesn't do something for her? Meredith, who is sitting in her bathtub at the end of the table and is mad that Whitney won't apologize to her because Whitney is paying her dust. Literally, dust. So stay mad, Meredith. Maybe eat another Xanax or two and you'll calm down. Have a piece of Xanax and maybe you'll calm down. And so we end with Whitney saying that she's doing her drag show. And I want to know what Whitney thinks she's doing. Because baby, you are not Trixie. Even with your little like powder rouge foundation, you're not a drag queen. So what do you mean by your drag show? It's Trixie's show that you are going to be hosting. It's not your show, but that's just a gay man talking to a straight white woman. We'll see if that lands. Fly that plane to Utah. Or they're going to Milwaukee. So Whitney unveils that they're going to Milwaukee. Mary's dead dad is from Milwaukee. She's never been, so Mary's going to see the gays in Milwaukee. And Meredith does not know if she's going to go because why does she want to go to Milwaukee in the winter with Whitney, according to her confessional. But once again, Whitney is taking the shade lessons from the black girls because they cut to her scene and she's like, Meredith? That tongue tie will always get me, man. She said Meredith doesn't want to go to Milwaukee. Good. I don't want her to go. Good. But that's how we end the episode. And it was, once again, a tennis match. It was all over the place. The dynamics are always shifting in Salt Lake. The drama unveils itself in that Emmy Award-winning editing. I cannot get enough. And I'm so happy we are in this era of Salt Lake City. So, please, I hope you enjoyed this video. Come back for more. Check out my other stuff that's coming. I have a lot more content about to roll out. As always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Me and my lasagna sweater. We'll see you for the next one.